On April 30, 2026, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, known as PIF, informed LIV Golf that it would stop funding the league at the end of the 2026 season. The announcement was delivered in a message passed along to players and staff that same week. Since the league launched in June 2022, PIF had poured more than $5 billion into LIV Golf, according to the Wall Street Journal, with other estimates placing the total closer to $8 billion once player contracts and operational costs are factored in. Yasir Al-Rumayyan, the man who founded LIV Golf alongside Greg Norman and had served as its chairman since 2022, stepped down from that position as part of the restructuring. In place of the old ownership structure, LIV Golf installed a new independent board of directors, led by restructuring veterans Gene Davis of Pyrenate Consulting Group and John Zinman of JZ Advisors. In a press release announcing the change, Davis said the leadership team saw a clear opportunity to help the league formalize its structure, attract and secure long-term capital. Just 2 weeks before the withdrawal became public, LIV Golf CEO Scott O'Neill had pushed back on reports that PIF was pulling its investment, insisting the league was fully funded through the 2026 campaign. The reality caught up quickly. What began in 2022 as a direct challenge to the PGA Tour, backed by a sovereign wealth fund with seemingly unlimited resources, was now a league searching for a way to survive past the summer. Players and executives had reportedly been told funding was secured well beyond this point, making the April announcement land as a broken promise as much as a business decision. The weeks following April 30 produced a rapid sequence of setbacks, one after another. LIV Golf postponed its New Orleans event in June, with the league citing summer heat as the official reason, even as speculation swirled about the underlying financial pressure driving the decision. Louisiana officials had already invested about $7 million to land the event, and had paid $3.2 million under contract before the postponement was announced. The league's $40 million team championship, scheduled for late August in Michigan, faced its own uncertainty, with construction on the host course still incomplete months before the event date. LIV Golf captain Martin Kaymer addressed the situation directly at LIV Golf UK, telling reporters, "Michigan, highly unlikely." Around the same time, the league began filing Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act notices, commonly known as WARN notices, in the United States, signaling that layoffs were now a real possibility for staff. A WARN notice does not confirm job cuts on its own, but it legally requires businesses with more than 100 employees to give 60 days advance warning before a mass layoff or closure. Then came a legal blow from an unexpected direction. Mobi Systems Group Limited, a Canada-based technology company that supplied the league's Any Shot, Anytime broadcast feature, filed a lawsuit against LIV Golf in the U.S. District Court in Miami. The filing alleged the league failed to pay an $820,600 licensing fee, and a further $104,500 in usage fees, on top of $209,531 in lost revenue, for total damages exceeding $1.10 million. LIV Golf's Senior Vice President of Technology, Nick Connor, had written to the company that delays in payment have caused strain in our relationship. Underneath all of this sat a deeper financial shift that told the real story. Company filings in the United Kingdom showed that LIV Golf Limited signed a 48-page debenture agreement on June 4, 2026, listing PIF not as an equity investor but as a lender, with the league's own assets used as collateral for the loan. According to the newsletter Money in Sport, PIF provided $333 million in new capital during 2026, $267 million in February and $66 million in May against an estimated operating cost of roughly $100 million per month. At that burn rate, the capital was enough to cover only 3 to 4 months of operations. Despite the shift from equity to loans, O'Neill told reporters that PIF remained a strong partner, saying, "We are full steam ahead." Reports from Bloomberg and the New York Post indicated that LIV Golf's management and legal advisors, including Ducera Partners as investment bank, Alex Partners as financial advisor, and Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher as legal counsel, had begun preparing the groundwork for a potential U.S. Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing as a last resort if new capital could not be secured in time. Compounding the pressure on players, some contract discussions for the league's future shifted toward offering equity in the restructured company instead of guaranteed cash payouts, a proposal that would have sounded unthinkable to players who joined the league on the promise of fixed, guaranteed money. The lawsuit was not the league's only legal headache. Earlier in the year, LIV Golf and PIF were also sued by the World Golf Group and Premier Golf League, who sought damages between $210 million and $630 million, alleging that elements of the LIV format, including shotgun starts, 54-hole tournaments, and 4-player team franchises, originated from their own earlier concept. Despite the mounting legal and financial pressure, LIV Golf maintained that its business fundamentals were improving, telling investors it had posted a 100% increase in revenue year-on-year for the 2026 season, and that 4 of its events and 10 of its 13 teams were expected to turn a profit this year. O'Neill had previously described full league profitability as a decade away, but shifted that timeline in conversations with prospective investors, now suggesting the league could turn profitable within 2 to 3 years. The gap between those two statements became a talking point among the advisors now reviewing the league's books. This is exactly the kind of financial story Golf Orbit was built to break down. If you want to understand the money and power struggles shaping the biggest names in sports before anyone else explains it clearly, hit subscribe right now. Every twist in the LIV Golf situation is moving fast, and staying subscribed means you won't catch the next update a week late. While you're here, drop a comment telling us whether you think LIV Golf survives this crisis. We read every single one. And if you want to see the next chapter of this story the moment it breaks, tap the like button so more people get shown this breakdown. With the financial runway shrinking, LIV Golf faced a hard deadline: find new investors by September 1st, or risk running out of road entirely. Guaranteed money players were now being asked to consider a future built on equity in a league whose survival was not yet certain. For a circuit that had lured stars away from the PGA Tour with some of the largest contracts in golf history, the shift from cash to ownership stakes represented a fundamental change in how the league did business, and it left everyone from executives to players waiting to see which direction the deadline would push the organization. Then, just as the situation looked bleakest, a lifeline appeared. The New York Post reported that LIV Golf had received multiple written commitments from blue-chip investment firms willing to serve as anchor investors, with the total package reportedly worth between $250 million and $300 million. O'Neill had been seeking capital in that exact range for months, holding talks with private equity firms, family offices, and high-net-worth individuals. Describing the response from potential investors, O'Neill said, "It was a split between private equity, family office, and traditional high net worth." Sources indicated that term sheets had already been signed and that a diversified group of investment firms was prepared to support the league's long-term goals through a financing syndicate. High-level meetings between O'Neill, LIV players, and potential investors were scheduled to take place at the league's event at Trump National Golf Club, Bedminster in New Jersey, with a deal expected to close sometime in September 2026. Under the proposed structure outlined in the term sheets, LIV Golf players would own a majority stake in the league going forward, marking a dramatic departure from the original Saudi-funded ownership model that had defined the league since 2022. Bryson DeChambeau, one of the league's most visible stars, took an active role in the process, stating he was doing all I can to help secure the deal, even as his own contract with the league was set to expire after the 2026 season. Not every top player was involved in the same way. Jon Rahm, who signed the largest reported deal in league history at roughly $300 million, remained locked into a long-term contract and stayed away from the investor negotiations entirely, a contrast that underscored how differently the league's biggest names were positioned heading into an uncertain future for the sport. If the financing deal closes as planned, LIV Golf is expected to look considerably different starting in 2027. Sources told golf outlet bunkered.co.uk that the league's schedule would shrink from 14 events to 10, with 5 designated as signature events and 5 built around the league's team competition format, spread across events on 5 continents. Prize money is expected to decrease from this year's $32.3 million per event purses, a significant reduction from the spending levels that defined the league's first 4 seasons of operation. The restructured entity, described internally as LIV 2.0, would also return most individual commercial rights, including name, image, and likeness control, back to the players themselves, with fewer restrictions on which other events they could compete in outside of required team commitments. Industry observers have described the emerging plan as leaner and less dependent on unlimited outside capital than the league's original Saudi-funded model. 2 central questions now define the league's path forward. The first is whether LIV Golf can operate as a sustainable business without the backing of Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, given that the league has not posted a full season profit since its 2022 launch, with total losses estimated above $1.4 billion through its first 3 completed seasons. The second is whether the proposed player ownership structure will actually be finalized, since sources close to the negotiations have been careful to note that a signed term sheet is not the same as a fully executed and funded agreement. What happens next will not only determine whether LIV Golf survives into 2027, it will also shape the broader relationship between the breakaway league and the PGA Tour, whose own framework agreement talks with PIF have continued without resolution since being first reached in 2023. This is exactly the kind of story Golf Orbit exists to cover: the money, the power plays, and the decisions that determine the future of professional sports as we know it. If this breakdown gave you real value, do one simple thing: hit subscribe and turn on notifications, so when LIV Golf's next move happens, you hear it from us first. And tell us in the comments, bailout or bankruptcy. Which one do you think wins out? We'll be reading and replying down there.